Welcome to the panel discussion, Building Meaningful Client Relationships Remotely. Please welcome session moderator, Shelley Lofton, Senior Vice President of Retail Payments, Marketing, and Lending.
Thank you all for joining us today. Welcome to the Building Meaningful Client Relationships Remotely session. In order to build a meaningful relationship with you remotely, I would like to remind you that this session comes equipped with a pause button. In case you need to grab some caffeine or a snack, we'll be right in our squares when you return. So thank you for taking the time to be with us today. I'm Shelley Lofton, Senior Vice President of Retail Payments, Marketing, and Lending at the ABA, and we have a great group of experts for you to talk to today about building meaningful customer relationships. You're going to hear real-life examples of what's working for them, so you can consider how to apply some of these ideas and techniques yourself. So before we zoom into all these relationship details, let's take a few minutes and learn about each of our esteemed panelists. And they'll tell you a little bit about their history in banking, marketing, and relationship building. We're glad to have everyone on the panel today, and we'll start with Dr. Anissa Evans. Anissa?
Thank you, Shelley. Hi, my name is Dr. Anissa Evans. I'm the marketing manager here at Evolve Bank and Trust. We are recently a 2021 Inc. 5000 honoree. Aside from our personal and business banking services, we do have a global footprint through our payment processing division, partnering with MasterCard and ACH services all over the globe. And then we also have a mortgage lending division that has 30 plus mortgage offices nationally across the United States. I do manage the digital marketing strategy here at Evolve Bank and Trust. So I do train all our sales teams on how to connect and build personal relationships through digital mediums, and also advancing our digital presence across multiple platforms. I'm excited to be here today. Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you for being here. Doug?
Hey, Shelley, how you doing? This is Doug Wilbur, CEO of Denim Social. We are a social media management platform purpose-built for financial services institutions like Evolve Bank and Trust. And we are the only and exclusively endorsed platform for the American Bankers Association. So pumped to be here. This is going to be an awesome discussion.
Great. Thanks, Doug. Liz?
Hi, thank you for having me, Shelley. My name is Liz Brockman, and I am the VP Director of Power at Fidelity Bank in Louisiana. POWER is an acronym, stands for Potential of Women Entrepreneurs Realized. Fidelity Bank is a mutual bank. We're local to the New Orleans metro area, also Baton Rouge and the north of Lake Pontchartrain. We have about 18 branches. And we have a mortgage division called NOLA Lending that services more of the Southeast region of the states. The POWER program started 4 years ago, and I was brought in to lead the group, and we have grown our membership to over 1,400 powerful women. So it's been a great asset to have in the niche market for small businesses. That's ours.
Great. Thank you, Liz. Thanks everybody for joining us. And we're going to dive right into some fun questions kind of right from the get-go here. So we're talking about relationship management and what a couple of years it has been for building and maintaining relationships. So we'll start there with, what does it mean to manage relationships now, and how is it different than it was 2 years ago? Doug, we can start with you on that one.
Oh, sure. I'm happy to take the first at bat. So, I think for us and what our customers have shared with us is that the pandemic really helped to illustrate the value of relationships in financial services. We like to say that people bank with people in our industry, and relationships matter more so in financial services than probably any other industry. I mean, after all, that's why we have mortgage loan officers, wealth advisors, commercial lenders, all these individuals in our lives who help us to make more sound financial decisions. And so what we've seen and what our customers are sharing with us is that during the pandemic, the role of digital, and specifically in our world, social media, has been, kind of pushed up the order of magnitude or the order of priority, because it is quite possibly the best way to maintain a relationship with a customer when they can't come visit you at the branch, or they can't grab you, you can't grab them off for a cup of coffee, or a lunch meeting, or the fancy wine dinners that wealth advisors are accustomed to taking clients out to. When all that shut down, really the only channel that was left to maintain relationships was digitally, and specifically in social media in our world.
Absolutely. And Liz and Anissa, how have your banks and your bankers evolved during this past, 16, 18 month transition?
Well, I'll go first. Our marketing department really kicked up gear in the digital world and in social media. We pivoted to doing videos, PowerPoint videos that we were producing on social media through like YouTube and Facebook Live. It was very well received, I would say. I mean, we got a lot of feedback from our customers that were reacting and interacting with us on social media. So that's how we did.
Well, I think, similar to Liz, we just really had to look internally and figure out what we had and as a marketing tech stack for resources that could continue to allow our sales teams to build relationships the non-traditional way. And I mean, honestly, let's face it, 2 years ago, we were screaming at our sales team to say, hey, you gotta get in social media. You have to get in tune with what's happening, because it really is a way for you to grow your business and really reach an exponential amount of people without really doing much, but posting content. And so this was kind of our track to look internally, figure out what we had, and then also, promote sales enablement. We really ramped up internally outside of, creating a bunch of content to share out. We had to train our sales team on, every aspect of technology that we had, and not even just social media, but getting them back in tune with their CRM and doing automated email marketing and engaging in that type of way that, could provide them with a multi-channel approach to relationship building through all of these digital platforms. And honestly, another component was teaching our sales team even how to create a Teams meeting to sit down and have financial consultations with their clients, whereas, someone like Doug said, you can't meet them at a coffee shop anymore. They can't come into the branch anymore. They have to connect in a different way. So essentially, we were very happy with the adoption that we received from our sales team among all of our digital platforms and among the training that we did. And we aggressively attacked that area by, setting up our first social media training program this year that was really structured, and making that a part of onboarding for our sales team so that they knew that they would have to go to market immediately with all of these digital tools at their fingertips.
Absolutely. I think you both described perfectly how you work to kind of blend the skill set that your sales teams already had with the technology to kind of humanize your brand and to build that connection. And so for all of our bankers out there who are looking to kind of do that, let's describe kind of the standard makeup of your sales team and how you worked with them as marketers to help them embrace these kind of non-traditional channels.
Mm-hmm.
I can take a first swing at that, and to just sort of dovetail off of what Anissa had shared before is that, so many financial services organizations were begging and pleading with their customer-facing employees, right? Their salespeople, for lack of a better term, whether you're a wealth advisor or a mortgage lender, pleading with them to get more active on social media and create more of a digital presence. The reality is a lot of those individuals just aren't going to be equipped. So in our world, when we think about how we help our customers, and specifically with regard to how we empower their salespeople to be more successful on social, we bifurcate their sales populations between two camps. One would be what we call the brown sock crew, and one would be what we call the fun sock crew. And in our world, the brown sock crew are the folks that are not digitally native. They didn't grow up in and around social media. They've built their businesses traditionally through more traditional forms of marketing and sales, meeting somebody for a cup of coffee, building that relationship, exchanging business cards, right? That's how they've built their book of business. The fun sock crew are the ones who are, they were born with an iPhone in their hand. They're more digitally native. They want to be more active on social media. And we can actually help marketers with both of those types of individuals. The brown sock crew need a lot of help and support, right? So they at this point, they recognize they need to be more digitally savvy, but they're not confident enough to take the next step to do it on their own. And so when we think about how we go to market with our technology, we're specifically building products and features and functionality to make it easier for marketers to create, schedule, and publish content, whether that be organic content that shows up in the news feed on social media, or social media advertising localized for the communities that those individuals sell into. We arm the marketers with the ability to do this work on behalf of the brown sock crew. And then conversely, for the fun sock guys and gals, those are the ones that really want to be aggressive on social media. And so our built-in compliance backbone really helps to keep the bank out of the hot water with the regulator, so you can give those digitally native fun sock folks the bandwidth to go and do what they want to do, but without necessarily exposing the bank to undue brand and reputational risk.
That's fantastic. And I love the brown sock and the fun sock reference. So from an in-bank standpoint, Anissa, how do you help the brown sock people want to become more fun sock people, or enable them to kind of maybe just occasionally slip on a fun sock or two in order to be successful through these channels?
Yeah, like I mentioned before, I think that we've been very aggressive in our training program for these brown sock crews, folks of the brown sock crew. But I think that what we've learned internally is that other salespeople advocating for the technology and their successes that they're getting from it works best for us. So it's almost like, if they wave a flag and say, hey, this is working for me, that's when the other salespeople and the other brown sock crew folks are going to jump on board and want to be a part of that success. So I think that what we do is we make sure that we do a few things very well with a few people, and then we have those people to advocate for that marketing technology internally to get everybody else adopted and on board. I think that has worked tremendously for us as an organization.
That's great. So you highlight a few of kind of the fun sock bright spots, and then go from there, because that helps the narrative. That's great. Even
with the fun sock folks, we find that a lot of our home loan center managers, for example, bring in assistants that are younger and a part of that fun sock crew. So they're the ones that are really aggressively in the platforms and creating localized marketing content and really digging into different strategies that can work for them to sell locally. So it provides us with that, with that other component of having somebody that's given the freedom to do what they want to do, but also remain compliant in what they do. But then we also can focus on the brown sock crew more, because we have those other folks that are in there kind of doing the work for other managers in their local market.
Yeah, that's excellent. How about you, Liz? What have you done to kind of help with the fun sock, brown sock crew?
So we did something for the fun sock people. We kind of recruited those that already were engaging in social media on their own, and asked them to be in our Fidelity Fam social media crew. And they have special handles on Instagram and Facebook, and we reward them with points from one of the Turning Points reward things that we have at the bank. We reward them every month for posting. They have to make a certain number of posts throughout the month. And while they're doing this, they're humanizing the brand, they're humanizing themselves, they're getting their customers to know them more and build those relationships through the social media. But rewarding them with the points has been very good. the team that we recruited, they're also excited. And when people come in and are new to the organization, we'll find out if they're tech savvy, if they like social media, if they were on social media already. It's just easy for them just to flow into it. I find that there are still some people that won't do it and just don't want to get on social media. And I don't think that that's hurt the relationships really, because I think those people deal with their relationships in a separate way, in a different way.
Absolutely. I think that's an excellent point to bring up, that, you know, everybody connects differently. And while it's been helpful during the past few months or year even now to use some of this technology, it still doesn't necessarily replace that human connection and how people have built relationships in the past. So that's an excellent point. And you both mentioned in your discussions the need to stay compliant and how important compliance is to this process. So while we want to connect with our customers as authentically and organically as possible, we also have to stay cognizant of the fact that compliance is crucial to what we do in banking. So what are some, you know, tips or tricks or key things that you all use to make sure that your brown sock or fun sock, any team members, are staying compliant?
Well, I can take that one first. I think that we have a great compliance system in place for anyone that wants to leverage social media as a marketing tool. We have a technology that we use where we have an approval process in place so that anytime someone wants to post content, it has to come through us first. We also leverage third-party compliance services where, you know, we can create maybe some advertisements or any type of internal graphics that are customized for someone in their local market that they want to sell to. And we can submit that content to our third-party compliance and receive a response back within minutes from that particular organization. And then we also leverage our internal expertise as well to make sure that we're compliant in everything that we do. I think that as a marketer, we're all brand ambassadors by heart. So we want to make sure that our brand is being represented, as best as possible wherever that brand shows up in the world digitally. But we also still want to make sure that, you know, different approval processes are in place, such as Doug said, you know, through Denim Social, where we can allow our sales team to have the freedom to do what they want to do. But hey, we see that your post says something, you know, has a keyword in it that says free. We're going to automatically flag that post and make sure that we understand what all that means and what message you're trying to send out. So, you know, just the technology in general is helping us to be able to manage more than 150 loan officers across the United States that are out there using social media to their benefit.
I'd like to say that having a partner like Denim Social to work with you is really an advantage for a bank, because that kind of keeps it organized. We have a company that we use, and they send us the calendar with the posts that are going to be going out for the bank itself and for the NOLA lending side, and even for the Power social media. And that everything has to go through compliance first. So those posts all go through compliance. Our compliance team monitors all of our Fidelity FAM pages as well. And we'll get calls from compliance occasionally saying, check, you know, this post, this person, and the marketing team can go in and flag it or put it on hold, freeze it, whatever you call that. And then we can monitor it through that. But our compliance team is very active in watching the social team's posts.
Yeah, and they should be, because it matters, right? I mean, right. You know, one slip up on social can, you know, depending on the regulator, can lead to, you know, pretty egregious fines, right? So the risk is real. You guys are making my job easy because you're saying all the right things and why we're building what we're building, right? And so for me, when we think about our approach to compliance, different than maybe some of the other platforms that are out there, we believe that the best solution or the best way to approach compliance is to be proactive, not reactive, right? And so if you have it, there's other technologies that are like, oh, flag a post that may not be compliant, alert someone, and then pull it down, right? Well, that's fine, right? You've triaged an issue, but the reality was if you took a more proactive approach, it wouldn't have been an issue in the first place. And so when we think about compliance, whether that be approval workflows, keyword filtration, like Anissa was talking about, moderation of content, content libraries with pre-approved content to make it easier for the brown sock folks to be able to get into the platform and post something compliantly that's going to make a difference. Everything that we're doing is really, we want to make sure that there are no compliance concerns when a piece of content goes out your front door. And just a sort of interesting anecdotal story, there's always this sort of historic rub between marketing and compliance, right? I mean, the marketers want to kind of push things forward and the compliance guys are like, no, we need to slow things down, right? So we work with there's a large mortgage lender on the East Coast, and I think they've got upwards of like 200 plus mortgage lenders on our platform right now. And they actually came back to us. We were doing a session like this not too long ago, and they said that our platform, ironically enough, was the thing that started to create a more symbiotic relationship between marketing and compliance. And primarily because it gave marketing a better understanding of what the concerns were that compliance had. So if you just think about, if you get two groups together and you get them collaborating more with less friction, the relationships that can be built, and they called it, the compliance officer called it compliance training by osmosis. And just by working through our platform and the approval process, they were able to set up together. So it really does matter, and it's great to hear that both of you guys are taking compliance seriously. Because if you're gonna put your folks out there and you're gonna either light up a social selling campaign or an employee advocacy campaign, whatever you want to call it, you got to make sure you're doing so compliantly.
Yeah, I think too that internally from a corporate marketing standpoint, we've done a great job at coming up with a posting strategy to where we are also educating our sales team on content that we're putting out there and how to share it so that we can already have content developed. Our team does a great job of creating different graphics and different content that we know are compliance and, approved already. It's already been through the fire. We know that it's also great content. And so the salespeople, all they have to do is either go into the library and grab it and post it, or, just making sure that we show them the benefits of sharing content too and connecting with other people's network is like a domino effect on social media too.
Absolutely. And I know you've all kind of talked at a high level about, reaching out and using social to build those relationships. But I would love if you have a specific example of, a user who was hesitant or, something a little bit more detailed to give our audience so that they can kind of have a bright spot to go back and hope for.
Well, one of the things that we've done since COVID, well, I was doing it before COVID, but I was doing a Power Vision video weekly on Facebook, and I had been doing it already for about a year, but when COVID shut everything down, it really became much more important, and it kind of pushed people's their limits to what they can do, because a lot of these people didn't ever go on Zoom. They didn't know anything about it, how to use it, including me, for the groups type of interactions. So I think that was really an eye-opening experience for a lot of people on how to use it and how important it was going to be for us to be on social and be on online as much as we had to be.
Yeah, Shelly, I have so many examples of that. I think that, loan officers coming in, sales folks that are more seasoned are not at all, tech savvy or willing to embrace, technology the way that we would hope for. I think from a social media perspective, what we've done is really even educate our sales team on what the difference is between a personal Facebook business page, a personal Facebook page, and a business Facebook page. And, you know, making sure that we have trainings and tutorials set up and different webinars that allow them to really follow step-by-step, to set up a business Facebook page in like 6 steps, just to make sure your NMLS number is there. There's a link to the disclosure so that if you do start marketing from this page, you're compliant in that area already. And so I think that, you know, among the masses, that's just been a part of us driving adoption and our sales team embracing these tools. But then also that one-on-one engagement as well. We have a digital marketing coordinator who is always there to answer any questions, take some time, do some one-on-ones. And then even within those interactions, it becomes, I can record this, loan officer setting up his Facebook business page and then send this video out to the entire sales team so that they know a seasoned loan officer can do it, so we can too.
Yeah, I think that's a great example of how, the training kind of turns into the internal marketing content, right? Because if you can show that, this particular lender can do it and how to do it, then others will just copy that. Those are great examples. Well, so let's dive into a different part of relationship building and talk a little bit about reputation management, because that's our job as marketers as well. So we have a lot of kind of multifaceted relationships, and part of what we have to do as marketers is kind of manage our online reputation and how that looks to everybody, and what we say and what we don't say, and how we manage that reporting function. So, Anissa, how do you do that?
Yeah, I think that through technology that we have for online reviews, we've been able to manage our brand reputation in a very phenomenal way. We personally respond to every single review. It's a human at the keyboard responding to a review. We're not providing canned responses. We are definitely taking our time to personalize the response to the service that we've provided. But we also take it a step forward to educate our loan officers on the benefit of them responding to any of their reviews as well. So even if it's a bad review, the first thing that a loan officer wants to do is pull the review down from the platform. And it's like, no, you can't. It's not that easy, right? But if you can just take the time to respond to your customer and clean up the experience and let them know, what may have happened, and then put a positive note on the end of it, it still works to their advantage. And we do try to educate our lenders as well on why it's not necessarily a great thing to have 100% 5-star reviews. We want to make sure that someone that is trying to do business with you actually sees that you do make mistakes sometimes, or that there's not going to be a great experience every single time. But if you have 90% 5-star reviews and a few times where things just didn't go so well and may have even been beyond your control, that's okay. And so, but the reputation management allows us to also provide them with another internal marketing tool to say, if you can manage your relationships online, more people are going to want to do business with you, and just letting them know how important that is, for just a mortgage lender, but also our entire bank in all verticals of, even Google reviews, how important that is.
It's a great answer, Anissa. And Doug, what do you see from your perspective that banks do really well when managing their online reputation?
Yeah, I think what we're seeing more and more of, which is really encouraging, is a more, I would say, a greater understanding of how their MarTech stack works together, right? So recognizing that you don't invest in a CRM and a social media management platform and a reputation management platform and a content management system discreetly. You invest in them because you want these platforms to work together. And so what we're seeing more and more of is, and coming from our customers, is like, oh, it's great that you guys have all this capability. Do you integrate with XYZ, right? And I think the value in that approach, and by the way, we do integrate with other platforms and increasingly building out what we're calling our partners, our ecosystem partners more and more every day, because we want to be able to create that flow of data, which ultimately will lead to, the attribution back to, why is social media valuable? It does lead to sales. We know it anecdotally, and we have a growing body of evidence quantitatively that illustrates that. But we want to make it super easy for all of our customers to be able to say, we've made these investments in these different pieces of technology, which are sizable investments, right? We want to make sure they're all working in concert with each other. And just to kind of take a step back, one of the things that we've seen, there's some interesting data, and I feel like we're only beating up on the mortgage industry during the session today, and we haven't talked about other verticals, but in the mortgage industry specifically, there's some really interesting data that's coming out. And the data that's coming out is that on average, consumers will take out 11 mortgages over the course of their life cycle. And when I first heard that number, I was like, no way, that's not possible. But if you think about it, people move, they refinance, maybe they buy a vacation home or a rental property or whatever it is. Like, not many people are paying cash for real estate, right? So 11, you can start to tally that together, 11 loans over the course of their life cycle. Most consumers, in fact, 92% of consumers will work with one of the first two mortgage lenders they talk to. So if you don't have your systems integrated and you have your systems talking to each other, you can't connect somebody making a comment or engaging on your social media, or, we help our customers with very localized and targeted social media advertising on behalf of their loan officers. You're getting consumers to start to raise their hand, but if you're not alerting the loan officer that that's happening, they're going to miss out on the sale. Because consumers are going to work with 92% of the time, work with one of the first two that they speak with. And so that's the value that we're seeing is when you start to put the effort into making investments in these various systems, you got to make sure they're talking to each other. And we're really encouraged because we're hearing more and more of that coming out of the industry. And the great news for us as a company is we support that use case.
I just wanted to chime in too. One component that I missed is that the brand trust is so important. If our consumers are seeing social media reviews on our lenders pages, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, across all platforms, that's going to create brand trust, because if they click on the link and go to the web page, they'll see the same reviews and they'll see that consistency of that interaction and that sentiment from the customers. And so that's another thing that we do really try to drive home to our sales teams, is to make sure that you have the opportunity to share any review that you get to any of your social media platforms, because you're going to have a reach beyond what you would know. But then when you're tagging warm leads and leading them back to the website to maybe even apply for a loan, that same experience is going to translate across multiple platforms.
Yeah, and beyond just the actual individual consumers too, if you think about where deal flow comes from, right? So in the mortgage industry, for example, deal flow comes from real estate agents and contractors and house flippers, right? And those are the folks that you need to be equally engaging. And maybe you're engaging them more on LinkedIn versus Facebook, for example, right? So to your point in this, having a multi-channel approach and making sure that you're amplifying that content across channels is really important as you're thinking about kind of growing your book of business as a loan officer.
Agreed. And amplifying all those messages really helps you end up in a lot of customers' possible consideration set as they're just scrolling through, as people do on a daily basis. And they may see that information and they may not act on it right then, but they'll remember it when and if they're in the market for it. And I think that's critically important. And it's also a lot of times hard to measure. So I think that's an excellent point on how to weave all of those together. So we've covered a lot of material in regards to relationship building and technology. And I want us to kind of circle back and let our audience know kind of the one key relationship building lesson you've learned over the last couple of years that you want to share with them before we wrap up today.
I'll take this. I really feel that being authentic in your brand, on your social media platforms throughout, you really need to keep that authenticity to keep those relationships going. And like y'all were talking about trust, that's how you're going to keep the trust, is if you keep that authenticity. Being consistent, that's another thing, is just to be very consistent. If you're doing something once a week, do it once a week. If you're doing it, a daily post, whatever it is, keep the consistency. And then also keep up the energy. You want to get people excited about it. And when you're excited about your brand, they're going to be excited about it too. And so they're going to want to do business with you because they see how excited you are about it.
Yeah, Liz, I agree with that, Liz. I'm sorry, Shelley, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, no, absolutely. That's great. I was just going to toss it to you, Anissa, so we're good.
I think I agree totally with everything that Liz said. Those are critical components. And then I'll also add that it's important to remain very relevant and timely with your messaging as well. So, marketing 101 is to put yourself in the consumer's shoes and say, what is it that I really want to hear right now throughout the current climate, of our world, our environment, the pandemic, anything we're going through? What is it that I want to hear? What is it that I want to feel from a business that either someone I'm doing business with or someone that I would desire to do business with. And so I think what we've learned is how to make sure that we're being very personal in our approach, but also being very intentional and making sure that the message is positive and different than what a lot of the messages are right now floating around in the world. So, giving customers the assurance that we're there for them and we're willing to help them at any cost, and making sure that they understand we're still open for business. We're still on the back end working very hard for you, I think is very important in our messaging, even from a corporate support standpoint, but also conveying that to folks that are trying to reach local markets through their content.
I guess it's my turn. My takeaway, and we touched on this at the top of the hour here, was really the power of people, right? And in our industry, and likely more so than in any other industry, people buy from people, right? And if you think about if you believe in that, right, which hopefully everybody on this webinar does, then you can also believe that on social media specifically, employees will on average have 10x the following versus the brand they work for. And every time they post content, they will get 2x the engagement. So if you think about the megaphone that you can create when you get your employees, and again, whether you call it an employee advocacy program, a social selling program, whatever you call it, the reality is that in our industry, if you want to create an amplified message on social, which is basically digital, you've got to be able to harness that collective horsepower and reach of your employees. And having the right tool in place is critically important to executing against that strategy.
Absolutely. And all of these kind of common threads in relationship management really drive home that, customers expect, these connections to be simple and seamless, kind of regardless of the channel, which is our biggest challenge, I think, today. So how do our community bankers use the resources that they have at their disposal to better align with marketing and other areas to build and strengthen these relationships? So what advice would you give them moving forward to keep doing this?
I would say keep taking chances and trying new things. Experiment with what is out there with social media, because I think that you're going to reach more people if you have more channels.
I agree. I think that along with what Liz said, if we talk about community and localized connections, I think it's important for us to definitely see what our salespeople are experiencing in their local market and figure out if there are any particular target markets that or audiences that they desire to reach, and kind of help them to craft those custom strategies and leverage each and every technology that we have to support them in their efforts.
Yeah, I think that, for me, that the common thread between what you both just said, which hits home for me, is we don't have to boil the ocean, right? We don't need to solve all the problems day one. And in many ways, at least in our world, when we have a customer come to us and say, we've got 500 mortgage lenders or 200 wealth advisors that we want to get active on social media, in many cases, we analyze that pretty closely. We say, look, like our recommendation is to not go boil the ocean route. Let's not get them all active on social media because you don't have the right processes in place. You're not staffed appropriately. Let's start with a small group, right? Let's start with 50 of the most active. Let's start with the fun sock crew, right? Get all the processes in place and then roll it out incrementally. And so I think one of the thing that I would leave for the bank marketers who are listening in is you don't have to bite every chunk of the apple day one. Let's take bites and learn incrementally along the way. And having technology partners in place that can grow with you is critically important to that.
That's perfect. And I think, now in addition to everyone listening, going to make sure they have promo fun socks if they don't already, hopefully they've picked up several tips and tricks on, how to focus on the bright spots that you've seen within your existing organization and letting that cascade from there across different technology channels to kind of build this up. Hopefully, as we develop whatever our next normal looks like, it will be a beautiful balance of in-person and live relationship building, as well as the technology that we've discussed today. So in conclusion, is there anything else that you all would like to leave our audience with before we give them back the rest of their day?
I think I can say to bank marketers out there that I think we all share the same struggles when it comes to digital marketing. I think that especially when it comes to social media, there's a lot of gray area that we try to work through and make sure that we're remaining compliant, but also kind of pushing the envelope. The banking environment can be very conservative, but I think that, we have to get creative in our strategies in order to remain competitive out there with all the content that's going out relative to the financial industry, to keep, our sales team competitive, to keep the brand standing out from other brands and, hoping to ultimately use that strategy to bring in more business and grow more relationships for our sales team.
Great.
Liz, you want to go first? You got anything else?
Oh, I agree with Anissa. I mean, it's just, we want to branch out, just do as much as you can to build that energy. The acronym I use is ACE. It's authentic, consistent, and energetic.
Mm-hmm.
Love that.
Yeah.
That is-
And Shelley, I'd just like to thank you. I mean, and thanks to the ABA for the opportunity to share at least our story, and hopefully everybody got a lot of value out of it. So thank you for keeping all of us on task today.
Well, thank you. We appreciate your time and the wisdom that you shared with the group. And to all of our community bank marketing superheroes out there, we hope you enjoyed this content and the rest of the content available to you. Have a great day.